Welcome to Next Topic Podcast. Today is June the 2nd. My name is Lo. I am joined on the panel by... Don't look at me like that, Roshad.
You're joined by Shad.
You're joined by Cam.
You're joined by Bev.
And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about the killing of unarmed black men and women and the resulting protests that are underway currently.
Yes. And what's the rules of our podcast, Lauren?
Stay on topic and no topic is off limit. And I will like to lay out an additional rule for today, but that is just to be mindful of differing opinions that we may or may not have, respecting each other, creating a safe space for each of us to kind of be vulnerable and actually speak what's on our minds.
I agree.
I like that.
All right.
Oh, and I also want to say, if we curse today, I'm really going to try not to.
We curse all the time.
Forgive me.
All the time.
We don't curse all the time. This one down here, dude.
Cameron does, but we as a collective, we are the Next Topic Podcast crew. We're a cohesive unit. So,
me under the bus? Fuck yeah.
under the bus. Yes. As Lauren said, we are discussing the killings of unarmed Black people across the country. So the latest story that has been highlighted in the media, just to give people a background of what has been happening. So the first killing happened on February 23rd, which was Ahmaud Arbery, was an unarmed 25-year-old African-American male who was fatally shot in Georgia while jogging on the road and shot by two other white men who was following him throughout the neighborhood. Another killing was of Breonna Taylor on March 13th, who was a 26-year-old African-American female who was fatally shot in Louisville by some officers who were just shooting and entering apartments who had a no-knock warrant. And Taylor was shot 8 times. And the latest killing was of George Floyd, who was an African-American male in Minneapolis, Minnesota, who was shot on May 20. What?
George Floyd wasn't shot.
He was not shot.
He was executed.
Yes. Mm-hmm. A police officer put his body on the back of his neck and he couldn't breathe. And he kept his leg on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And also Floyd was handcuffed during that time as well. Mm-hmm. So that's just to give you a little background on what has happened. So back to you, Lauren.
Yes. And so I think largely the protests that we're seeing right now, it's kind of just like the straw that broke the camel's back. We've seen these sorts of protests before. However, I think probably the magnitude of what's happening right now is at a greater scale than probably something I think I've ever witnessed before in my lifetime. We're seeing right now people across this country and also in other countries. We've seen protests in London, so this is not just something that is a rage that is being felt here. But I think it's something that we've felt for a long time. I know that I personally have felt for a long time, but we kind of have to just on a day-to-day basis, we play this game, right? We have to kind of walk in a straight line. And I think people are really just fed up at this point. And so we see people expressing their frustrations in many different ways right now. Cameron, I know that, sorry for people who are listening in or viewing. So you all, Abel, you live here in Oakland too, right?
San Leandro.
Oh, San Leandro, neighbors. Mm-hmm. But
It's,
basically, we're all here in the Bay Area. The three of us, me, Cameron, and Roshad, all live in Oakland. And starting, I guess, Friday, there have been protests. Mainly downtown, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, mainly downtown Oakland.
Yeah. Cameron, you were actually on the scene. And so I would love to hear from you, your take on what was happening down there, some of the things that you witnessed, how you felt. Yeah.
I was there Friday. And it's It was a little bit of two different types of scenes. So I was there earlier in the day, like around 7:45, 8-ish. And everybody was at City Hall. It was packed. It was white, black, Latin, like it was everybody. People on horses, people stopping traffic, people on the freeway. It was everywhere. And then as I was on my way home, I seen a bunch of cops on the overpass, riot gear already ready, geared up to go. And then me and my team went back out to downtown like around 9. So we went back to City Hall where we thought everybody was going to be, and there was nobody there. Everybody was like dispersed through downtown and just like literally just screaming George Floyd, Oscar Grant, Willie McCoy, like everybody was saying everybody's name. And it was honestly really peaceful for like the first 2 hours. And then you start seeing like people starting to vandalize shit. So at first, being on the scene, it was like, okay, people are angry. They're mad at these big corporations for not helping and not saying anything, not stepping in. So you just like, okay, people destroying shit. But looking at my pictures, all my videos, even the shit my team has, everybody that's starting to destroy shit is all white people. There was not one black person that we saw. And we didn't see everything, but from what we saw, there was not one black person to start destroying anything. And then like we was listening to the audio of some of the shit, and people were yelling on to the next one, like their agenda was to destroy shit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as black people, we react to a lot of shit. So when shit started, that's when looting starting to happen and shit like that. They burned Chase, they burned Walgreens, they broke into bars. And at that point, it was like, okay, this is not the point.
But I think one thing that I think what we're seeing right now, though, is like this is a result of how Black people are being disproportionately affected by this entire pandemic and this entire situation. I think a lot of people are failing to acknowledge the fact that Black people are being killed every single day, whether it is in everything slowly dying, right? So being killed by this virus, whether they are being killed as a result of losing their job, not having their health care, not having food on the table. Those are also inflicting violence on people, right? And Black people disproportionately. And so imagine if you are out of work, don't have any health care, there's a virus that is raging across civilization, and now you're seeing someone again being killed in the street who looks like you have all this built up anger and rage. I cannot say that, like, if something were to happen to someone I love, I cannot say that I wouldn't be burning shit down too. And not because I feel like that gets anything, not because I feel like, oh, that's going to get the job done, but because I want you to feel my anger and my pain.
Yeah. A lot of people Friday, you could tell, just wanted to be seen and wanted to be heard. At some point, it's like, we've done peaceful protests time and time again. You say that's not the way to do it. You don't give us a solution, and then you continue to act the way you do. So then we change our tactic and we start to destroy shit. And then after that, you're like, oh no, that's not what we wanted. Go back to the peaceful shit. Well, you should have took that when you had the chance. And like,
so that's something, that's something I want us to talk about too, Cameron. I want you to finish your point, but I do want us to talk about this whole peaceful versus not sort of protesting. But
I also want to mention the solution, because when you say like, oh, they didn't give us a solution, is it up to them to give us a solution? But keep going.
So out there on Friday, it was a peaceful part on 14th and Broadway. And this was at like 11:30. People were just chanting everybody's name. Nobody was like throwing shit or nothing. And then me and my team, somebody on my team had to go use the bathroom. So we all went because we wasn't separating. So we were on the side, if you know how 14th to Broadway looks. And somebody was peeing and we just sitting there taking side shots and getting video and shit like that. And then you just see cops starting to throw tear gas into the peaceful crowds. And we have video of that, like just shit popping off in the middle of people, somebody running past shit. And then once they started to charge forward, a few of them made a right and started coming towards us. we aren't destroying shit. We're taking pictures. We, out there free to assemble. That's our God-given or constitutional right.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're coming at us like, go home, get out of here. And we're walking away and they're still charging after us. They said, this is no longer peaceful. You need to leave. And we're like, you see us walking away, but they still continue to pursue us. So just shit like that really shows me that they're not really out here to protect anybody. Because we aren't harming anybody. We ain't after them. We not fucking with no businesses or nothing. But you're still after us. For what?
So let's talk about protesting, whether or not that's the right way to go about things. How each of us feels about this course of action. So Abel, I'll start with you. First of all, just how do you feel about the protests that are happening right now?
Got you. So I feel a lot of things about kind of like what transpired in the last week, at least. It's been really nice to see actually people taking the streets, protesting and demanding justice, because at this point, because historically there's been so many repetitive similar cases to where justice is not served at the end. At this time, people are taking it further. People are burning shit down. People are causing an international crisis in America, like showing that there's a crisis here in America at this time for Black people, and there should be an awareness globally. So I really like that part, that people are taking action. There's people that are coming as allies of different races and stepping up, vocalizing themselves and joining the movement as well. Though my concern with the peaceful protest that's been happening is the kind of like how much there are undercover cops involved in these protests, and how there are white people within these protests that are looting, or they start the looting. I've been watching videos online where in different cities across America, the people that are starting this looting are white people, and the organizers, the Black organizers on ground, are telling them, please stop, because we're the one that are paying the repercussion for this. So seeing what people's intentions are within these movement has also been interesting. But I think it's an interesting time to be, I don't know, like Black right now, because there's so much emotions going on, and there's people that feel certain type of way about protesting. They're just all peaceful protests, and some white people telling Black folks how to protest. So it's been interesting just observing everything, taking everything in, and so.
Something that has been really problematic for me, and has made it very difficult for me to accept some of the protests that are happening right now, is the fact that I think it's beautiful to see people of all walks of life coming together. However, I don't feel like those same people, they show up for us on a day-to-day basis. And so that's what's a problem to me, is because I'm sick of the performance. I feel like during the civil rights movement, and back in the 60s and stuff, people were protesting, but they were also doing a lot of stuff on a day-to-day basis, and I don't feel like that's happening today. I need y'all to show up for us. And I think, Rashad, you and I talked about this last night. I need y'all to show up for us in places where we aren't, I need you to show up for us, in the, corporate America. I need you to show up for us, on your city councils. I need you to show up for us in the courtroom. I need you to show up for us, not just as a result of you seeing something, triggering and uncomfortable to you. We see this stuff and actually experience it every single day. I need you to feel that burden every single day. That is not ours to carry alone. You should be carrying that with us and relieving us from that. And so that's what I have a problem with. I've been saying this, and I'm going to continue to say this, and I'm going to continue to treat people this way, is I'm not giving out any more participation trophies. I don't care if it's great. I appreciate you speaking up on it. I appreciate you treating me with respect, but what are you doing beyond that? I need you to be doing things that is setting my children up for a better future, because at this point in time, like, it's up to us, you know, to like really hit the ground running and, you know, make shit happen. But what's going to happen to our kids? I'm going to have Black kids. You know, what's their reality going to be? Are they going to have to really go through the same cycle? I don't want this to be wash, rinse, repeat. That's my problem right now with a lot of the shit I see. Like, it's great to see everyone doing that, but is this all a performance?
And people only want to act on like something as, you know, as like a death happened, which is like very important. But it's like a lot of things throughout people's like normal daily lives that they go through, and, you know, all the biases, the racism, the prejudice, like in the workplaces, on the streets and things like that, that people can like stop in that moment in time, because it's not always as extreme as someone getting murdered. Sometimes like you need to like speak up for those Black people in those workspaces, in those courtrooms, and all those spaces that you mentioned before, just on the street. But people only speak out when something like, so when someone has died, and then at that point it's too late. Like, you should have said something before. Like, we don't have to like get to this point of someone dying for you to like speak up. Because like, if people would have spoke up before, then we would never be in this space. And people not also just speak up, but like change like the way you live your life, and like change like those prejudices and those biases that are in your mind that some white people grew up with. And you know, and some white people have changed and they do talk to each other, but white people need to get together and have those conversations in those spaces by themselves, without like Black people being in those spaces, because white people created racism. So white people need to end racism. So so all those little Thanksgiving meals that these white people will be having, y'all need to sit down and talk about it. Get with your grandmama and get with the kids and talk about why these things are wrong. And if you don't, as a white person, know how to do it, Google it. So do not reach out to one of your local Black friends and ask them like, oh, what can I do? No, don't do that. Because white people don't ask Black people, what can you do to start racism? So don't ask them, what can you do to end it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the way I feel about the protest, like, I'm not like exactly like a protester myself. But I agree. I think, as the Bell mentioned before, we already tried going down a route of like the peaceful protesting, the taking the knee and things like that. So especially at this point in time with the pandemic and all that built on in the type of environment we're living now, this is like bound to happen. I've never like witnessed anything on this scale before. I don't think none of us have. It's scary, and it's like it's been happening almost every day since it started. But it's kind of like I'm in a sense I'm here for it, because the only way to get like white people to see the injustices and stuff that is happening is to, at this point, just go into their pockets, and this is the only way as Black people that we can go into their pockets and make them see like the way we are feeling and the hurt that we are feeling right now.
But you know what, Rashad, one thing is I want people to realize is we could do that every day, and it don't have to be a riot. We talked about a couple episodes back, we talked about supporting Black businesses, right? How often do you see people promoting and supporting Black businesses? It's like the value of our dollar it's insane, right? Like, for like, as Black people, right, as buyers, why do we not circulate those dollars into our own communities? And I'm not saying, and then I'm not trying to make the argument whatsoever that this is something Black people need to do, like they need to change the way they do, because I hate to see that. People are like, well, like, I think Lil Wayne says some shit like, we have to take accountability for how we treat each other and da 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 da. But like, that's a whole different topic.
That's a whole different topic. That's a Black issue that we will deal with ourselves in the Black community.
Exactly. All I'm saying though, in this particular case, is that I just hope we do continue to do things for the betterment of our people. That's it. But I'm not saying that this specific incident has any, like, we have or had any control over that. George Floyd did everything he was supposed to do. Breonna Taylor was doing nothing wrong, you know? Ahmaud Arbery did nothing wrong, and some white people took it upon themselves to make a citizen's arrest, right, and be police and lynch this man in broad daylight. There was nothing that they could have done differently or should have done differently. They were existing while Black.
But the thing is like, even if you did something wrong, you took the job as a cop, you put your life on the line. You know what you're getting yourself into. Your life is on the line every time you clock in.
Mm-hmm.
So just like in the military, when I was on deployment, we have rules of engagement and escalation of force. There are rules you have to abide by before you can even attempt to fire at anybody. If they don't have hostile intent towards you, and hostile intent has to be, I am pointing my weapon at you. Not if he grabs his weapon, that's fine, that's his weapon. But if I'm not pointing it at you with hostile intent, I cannot fire upon you. And that's the same, the rules of engagement that officers have that they don't follow by.
So yeah, I've been reading a lot of stuff about like how a lot of police departments, they have their own, you know, rules and regulations as far as like what the officer did to George Floyd. Like certain police departments, they make that behavior okay, or like that's not prohibited, but in others, they'll say that you can't do that sort of thing. And so it's just a whole big issue, you know, with policing across the board. There's no reason why policing in, let's say, San Francisco should be any different than policing in Oakland, you know? Mm-hmm. But that's the world we live in, unfortunately.
And I think,
go on, Bill.
I think when I seen a video, another video was released late that he was arrested in a car and the cops were beating him up while he was arrested in the car. And then it transitioned from there to him being on the ground and being executed. And I don't think people realize that during this whole pandemic, like you said, yes, like people, the working class, the low class Black people in this country, they're been affected most by the pandemic. So on top of that, you've had back-to-back killings of Black bodies, and on camera, 2 of them at least, right? And to like, it really felt like you could just see how calm the cop was. You could see how he had no regard for a human life, for a Black life. He slowly was taking his life away, and you could just see his face, right? And the way we interpret that and the way other people look at that is totally different. And that's something that I've been trying to, in my mind, I'm like, when we see that, there's a lot of rage that comes within. Whereas when people see that, it's, oh, a cop, even the headline news, a cop died in the hands of a arrest or in the hands of the police. He was executed on like live camera. And what's happening now is rage. It's people that they've had it, right? And they're on the streets, and it's emotions that are boiled up. But one thing that I want to bring up is once this keeps going, right, how do as Black people we transform that rage towards something that is more effective, right? So whether it is political, whether it is on organized level, and how do you transform that rage to where things could be done as far as like whether it's justice for him, right? That's the goal at the end of the day, is justice for George Floyd, and now the cops should be arrested. Not one cop, but the 4 cops that were there. So how is the follow through gonna happen? Because time and time again, arrests don't happen after like these outrages, right? So I think a lot of people have been saying like everything that's going on should be followed through by helping organizations that are doing the job, like that are forefront doing the work, like bailing people out when they're arrested, doing like pressuring the DA, District Attorney of Minnesota, and things like that. So I think people should also be supporting those people that are like forefront doing the work so that things could like come to fruition, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Go, Cam.
Mm-hmm. But I disagree. I don't think our people as a Black people need to be supporting those people. They need to be supporting us. At the same time, the world needs to support us. We've been oppressed for so long. You can't ask us to turn this rage into something else, because it was something else before. And now it's rage. So we're not going back. There's no way to go back. And it's not justice for George Floyd, it's justice for our people as a whole, because this is going to continue to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to figure out a way, like Rashad said, we have to get in their pockets. So if we got to destroy this whole fucking country, we will. Because that's the only way they're going to see it. That's the only way they're going to hear it at the end of the day.
Rashad, you look like you had a thought. I want you to share that thought.
Because you let the bill go.
Okay, and I don't, I'm not disagreeing with you, Cameron, but the people, when I said people, let me be specific.
I know who you were talking about, Bill.
Doing the work are Black organizers. These are Black youth leaders and organizers that are forefront doing the work. Those are the people that I'm saying we should support, whether it's monetary, whether it is, if you could yourself be down to join an organizing group that's near you and seeing what's needed to be done in the community. That's what I was talking about, not supporting.
You're talking about social justice, like reform.
Social justice.
Yes, not,
workers.
Yeah, I got that too.
Those are the people that I'm referring to. Okay.
Yeah. Rashad, what was you gonna say?
I was saying, like, the way I interpreted what Abel was speaking about like the rage and how we can, like, use that rage and turn it to something else. Like, I agree. Like, I think the rage part at the moment is like the right course of action. But what I'm thinking is, like, there needs to be like some sort of goal or like plan in mind to actually like impact or make change work. Because like we can do all this rage and like burn down all these buildings, but we need to figure out like what exactly we want and be very specific about it. I'm like, we want, like, just saying like we want justice or like freedom. I'm like it's too broad. At the moment, we got to be like real specific. Like, I want to like change the law that does X, Y, and Z. I want the police department to have to do A, B, C, D, and E. Like, you have to be that specific, especially in this country, to make it work. Because I think what the main difference between like protests, like, to me, this protest that's going on now and the ones that happened a long time ago in the 60s, is that like there was like a specific plan that was happening behind the scenes to like make a lot of this change work. Like with Rosa Parks specifically, like when we grew up, we just thought Rosa Parks was tired and she just sat on the bus. But I didn't, like, when I learned that in the second, third, fourth grade. But as I got older, I knew like she was a part of this larger movement that like, you're going to sit on this bus on purpose. And this is like the plan in which we're going to do to like make this protest happen and make it on a larger scale. And that's what I think is like what is missing right now. I was like, there is, or maybe I just don't know. I'm just trying to figure out like what the goal is and what the change is, and like we need to figure out like what exactly we want. Like, of course, like we want the police brutality to stop. We want the killings of these African American people to stop. But I think we need to be like more specific about it and make that known on a larger, more public scale. Because like if Martin King and them could do in the 60s without no internet, no cell phones or nothing like that, we can easily do it now. I'm like, it take a couple of tweets to get something popping and trending on Twitter, and get people to sign petitions, get people to like match money and things like that. So that's what I think like needs to happen, because it seemed like we have a lot of action right now with no. I'm like, because when the riots stop, then
right. And you made a point earlier too, Rashad, about like how people, like, it takes someone's death on camera for people to actually do anything. And I feel like stuff like nowadays is just so fleeting. The emotions, the rage, all of that. Like, people, like, I feel like at some point this will die down, you know what I mean? And a lot of people will just go back to business as usual.
Said living that same oppressed life that they were before.
Yes. And so like I just want people to like pay more attention, and this is across the board. I am looking at like really at like white people, like pay attention to when you feel privilege, whether you identify it as white privilege or not. But if you're in a position and you feel like, oh wow, I feel so blessed to have this opportunity, look at that opportunity and think to yourself, is this same opportunity equitably afforded to other people who don't look like me? If the answer is no, then you have work to do.
The key word is equitable in that sentence.
Equitable, exactly. And so like, I just want people to like every single day, like when like even me as a Black woman, I am afforded some privileges that other Black people who may not be in the same economic position as I am, you know what I mean? And I'm aware of those, and I don't I have to, it's my responsibility to make sure those other people, you know what I mean, to pull them up. I feel like I personally, I will be accountable for that. Like, I could be, like, I talk a lot of times about, like, and we talked about, like, white people, it's not enough for them to just be good people. You have to be more than that. You just being a good people and treating people fairly does nothing to dismantle the systemic issues that we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. And me being a good Black person does nothing to dismantle those same systems, you know? I don't know. It's a lot of frustration. I've been angry for a very long time, I would say. And this week was particularly difficult for me as a Black woman in corporate America, one of, I think across the entire company, one of like below 5%. And in my immediate teams, one, and sometimes one of like maybe 10. And so not having people, like having to sit on calls this week with, like, as if nothing happened, even though I woke up in the morning angry with a headache, exhausted, crying, wash my face and show up to work while everyone's acting like nothing happened. That just, I feel like it makes me even more angry. And so I hear you, Abel, when you talk about like us having to figure out a way to like channel that anger. But I also think like we really, and I like in the Black community, we have an issue with like the mental health stigmas, right? And I feel like we really need to like acknowledge how we're feeling right now. So I meant to actually start this with that and do like kind of a temperature check and see where y'all are at. But I want us to acknowledge I want us to acknowledge our feelings, acknowledge why we feel those ways, and like be specific, just like Roshad said about being specific with our demands. Like be specific about why we're feeling that way. So I feel like in the only way to like address it is to like really get down to the details, and actually do some healing. A lot of us we're in pain, and we like have been traumatized. Exactly. And I think it needs to start with some healing first for us to be able to like be effective at all. Like,
how do you heal though? That's the question.
I don't know. See, I don't know. Some things that I personally try to do is like I try to have conversations with people. I had a conversation with Dustin this morning, and he just like asked me like he's like he was saying like how he is trying his best, you know, to be supportive of me. He knows like, cause I have been very down and he's like, he doesn't feel like he's doing enough. Right. And so just asking me specifically what he needs from me, and I'm telling him specifically what I need from him. And I feel like that's important to do. Like, don't just like let emotions, like you are really like, we're like existing and letting our emotions just like collide, you know? You have to vocalize it and talk about it. I know that's helpful for me, and also writing stuff down, even if I don't share it, just like journaling. That's helpful for me.
Yeah.
All right, so Cameron, Roshad, Abel, how are you feeling? What have you been doing? How do you feel?
Go ahead, Abel.
How I'm feeling, I think I definitely, so the general feeling of anger, just like rage, of like feeling like fear. I'm not even going like just fear itself, and just knowing that I was watching a video of Steven Jackson. He was a close friend with George Floyd, and he was talking about how he was saying you don't realize that this is you at any moment until it hits close, like to home. And I was thinking about that too. Is like you said, at the end, it always feels like rioting and protesting, and people go back to their daily life. But I think this is why, and this is why a lot of people are talking about take a look at yourself in the mirror, because if there's no collective effort to come together, at least, and Roshad, I definitely agree with you with saying we should have an agenda. And there are people currently that are stating out lists. this is what we should be paying attention at. Like, not after this, let's definitely rage, right? Let's definitely, because the rage itself, the right itself is a form of expression. Itself is a form of letting out this emotion that's inside of you. So it shouldn't, I don't want to talk about it as, or I don't want it to make it sound like, oh, let's not be raging and let's not be rioting and let's just channel that energy this way. No, that's a form of expression as well. But following through after that, there is steps that people that do the work, like in their professions, Black organizers, people that work for NAACP, that are saying there's elections coming up and how important that is for our people to go register, vote, and elect those people that are going to be in positions to make these decisions, right? And to educate ourselves on how we could get involved in Black organizing so that we hold our community accountable to and moving forward. But just as far as myself, I felt there's a bunch of emotions that I've been feeling. There's anger, there's fear, there is helplessness a little bit. It's like, what could I do? And on my end, I've been reaching to people. I have some friends that are organizers, and I have some friends that work for NAACP, and just reaching out to them and asking, like, what could I do in this point right now to make myself useful? You know, if that makes sense.
You brought something up, Abel, and I think this is a good point in time when you edit this video, Cameron, to, if you aren't registered to vote, I do encourage everyone to get registered to vote and to vote in their local elections as well as the national elections, right? But
what would you say to those people who feel like voting doesn't do anything?
I feel like if you feel it doesn't do anything, that is a deep reflection of like what you've been doing. So if you have not been doing anything, you probably feel like voting doesn't do anything, and it's not going to do anything until we collect. What I'm saying is, like, if you feel like, oh, it doesn't do anything, you probably haven't been doing anything. I have been voting, so I feel like my vote matters and it counts.
But some people don't feel like that vote matters.
I know.
I was actually reading this article literally when I woke up this morning, and it said there's people, there's huge. No, I did wake up on time. I just anyway. Anyways, so there is a huge population. Well, I don't want to say huge, but there's a good amount of Black folks that lost complete trust in the electoral process. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, process of this country, right? And they definitely stepped away from it, and that is, Rashad, to your point, is absolutely like understandable. Like, seeing everything is just like,
oh, yes, that's not my point.
No, he didn't make a point. But what I'm saying is, if you're not collectively doing anything, you feel like the vote doesn't matter. Yeah, your vote doesn't matter if you're not doing anything. Like, that's just what it is. Like,
I think you need to make that not doing anything part clearer. Because you're saying, like, what it seems like you're saying, it's like, oh, you're not doing anything, you're not doing nothing for the community.
Oh, no, that's not
okay, so let's clear that up.
In the electoral process. That's
okay.
What I mean.
Okay.
Yes.
If you're not an active participant in the electoral process.
Thank you for getting that clarification out of me. I did not want that to come across as my point, because that wasn't my point.
I mean, honestly, if this doesn't make people vote, the shit that Donald Trump has been saying, especially during these times, we are a lost cause.
Yes.
And that's on a national level. Like, on a local level, the article was talking about, there's a reason why voting, even today, modern day, voting or registering to vote, or even on the day of voting, there is like challenges for Black people. They make it harder for you to vote.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The article said there is a reason for that, because your vote matters, and it puts those people in position to judge you, in positions that are supposed to hold people accountable, oftentimes that don't. And to do your research on who is, because politicians are politicians, they're two-faced. So to really say who are these people that we're putting in power. So that's basically what it talks about.
You have to look at how they voted on policies in the past. And the other thing is, one other thing I have to call out, and I will bring up a fact about these killings as well, but we only make up 13% of the population.
Only.
13?
And meanwhile, like, these
13.
killings, yes, we are 3 times more likely to be killed by the police.
We're always X times more likely for everything bad.
So out of the police killings, we make up 25%, which is twice the percentage that we make up in this country. But when you look at unarmed killings, we make up like 33% of those.
That's ridiculous.
Right. And so even with this voting and stuff, the same thing with the previous election. Like, we all said this. Everybody was out there doing their marches, wearing all their little vagina hats and whatnot, right? What happened? You remember the little pussy hats?
I got it. I wasn't expecting that. Sorry.
But, you know, again, we seen people out there. We're like, yeah, people are on our side. You know, Trump's not getting elected. What happened? He got elected, right? We only make up 13% of the population. And then out of that 13%, right, you got a lot of Black people who are disproportionately jailed and have records, stripped away of their rights to vote, right? You got
Some
Black people out here being
vote.
killed. Some are too young, right? Whatever the case may be, there's all these barriers that are in place to prevent us from voting, right? So this is what I'm talking about when I say, like, when I see all these white people out here breaking shit, running in the street, rah, rah, I need you to show up for us where our voices are not, like where we're not heard, where we're not present. That's where I need you to show up for us. I need your ass to get out there and vote, you know, and vote on policies that are in my favor, right?
And also,
not to be silent.
And someone want to say, because we talk about numbers, and I have to bring up the Latinx community, who is like usually, sometimes one of our biggest allies in the fight for, you know, for social justice issues, who has, in my opinion, I can't speak for everybody else, who has been kind of silent throughout a lot of this stuff. So it's just like my point is, like, as the Latinx community continues to like rise and become like a huge part of the American population, even though they was already here, but you understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you know, Black people always gotta bear the burden of like bringing everybody and all groups of people along with them without like a lot of help. So, and my thing is, the Latinx community has the numbers to like help us in this like social justice fight, and I just wish that their voices were louder. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, because, you know, we bring a lot of people along the ride with us. You know, we got to be the ones killed, and then all the policies that get put in place helps everyone. But we got to be the ones who got to be killed and, you know, prejudiced and biased against. And everybody else is like, oh, we made it happen. I'm like, no, we made it happen. I'm like, you just reaping the benefits of what, you know, the Black people already done. So that's one thing I would say, because, you know, the Latinx community is about to be damn near what, 40% of the population in a minute.
I don't know the percent.
I don't either, but I know it's a lot. And that's the only thing I want to say. And another thing I want to say, when people are like, oh, the people of color need to, when they be tweeting and stuff, and they always say people of color, say Black people. Don't just say people of color. Ellen, all you celebrities and stuff, be specific in what you're talking about. Like, people of color have this hard time or being like biased against our kids. It's Black people.
You're gonna say it.
Be very clear about that. So
Right.
I just wanted to like plug those.
Okay, so how does that make you feel? Like, how are you feeling during this time? It's just your time.
It's my time. You know, the thing is, like, during this pandemic, also general, I don't like to like visually see stuff happening, like, or people getting killed and stuff like that. And I know that's important for everybody to understand, but I don't like to like visually see it like on my phone, you know, on the timeline and things like that. Because to me, it's like it's like very depressing to like witness things like that all the time. So like I try to like at least like read an article or like stay away from it, especially during this time, because all of my outlets to like make myself feel better, I can't do. Like, I'm like, look, we can't like take a vacation, we can't travel, you can't, you know, get a massage, you can't even get a manicure or pedicure, or like a moment to relax. Like, none of that is happening. So just like a lot of violence with no outlets for that. So that's why I think a lot of protests and riots are happening, because you can't even go to the gym. So it like, it really like, it saddens me. You know, I'm a very tight person, so I keep my emotions about everything in life just like kind of like inward, and and like bottled up, because it's a lot to deal with and a lot to manage. So like that's how I'm like, it's like it saddens me, but also like make me think about what can happen next and like what we can do next to like get our point across.
Mm-hmm.
How you been feeling, Cameron?
Honestly, I was talking to some of my friends the other day about it. Like, I really just, at this point, like, I'm going through a mix of emotions of confusion, of anger, of helplessness, of nervousness, being scared. Like, I really don't know what to feel. And because of that, like, in certain situations, I don't know how I would react. Like, just being out at any point in time, you're a target because of the color of your skin. You never know when your last time talking to somebody is, and that's terrifying. Especially, you know, from the people that's supposed to be protecting you. Like, that shit is insane. So, like, I really don't know how I've been. It's been pretty rough for me this past couple weeks. And then the pandemic isn't helping because you don't have those avenues to let shit out. You know what I'm saying? Like you were saying, you can't go to the gym. You can't run because you could get shot. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's really nothing for us to get that out, to just like express yourself and feel relaxed. So it's been pretty tough.
Right. Yeah, Lauren, let's get into some of your facts right quick.
Actually, those were my facts about the percentages. Sorry, those were my facts. I was doing digging.
With facts.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was doing some digging, and yeah, go ahead, Abel.
I wanted to say something real quick. So I've seen this online, and if y'all know, or if anybody that's going to be watching this episode knows somebody that did get arrested in the Oakland protest, there are people that could bail them out. And if y'all could contact at DUHLENCY at Dehlency, that's how you pronounce it, or hit up Blake, BLAKE, at hellablackpodcast.com. So Blake at hellablackpod.com. And they have the resources to bail people out that have been arrested in the Oakland protest. So I guess just information.
For white people watching, I encourage you to really do some self-reflection. Thinking about what you can do to help resolve this problem that your ancestors created. I encourage you, if you would like to read a book, I encourage you to read a book titled White Fragility. It may help start and promote some conversations, you know, whether that's between you and your family members or that's with you and your coworkers. I'd like for you to at least start there. I also like you to just acknowledge any discomfort you're feeling right now. Just sit with that. I hope it makes you feel very, very uncomfortable. And I don't say that because I want, you know, any pain to be inflicted upon you. But I want you to feel and deal with that discomfort and then figure out how do you alleviate that pain, because that's what the rest of us are feeling.
Right. You grow from being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So,
do you have any recommendations, Roshad?
I guess it depends on recommendations for like who. Like I just like want all the Black people to like, you know, have like find your outlets during this time to like help you, you know, talk to people and like deal with the trauma that you're feeling, because Black people, we don't always recognize that we are traumatized, and we, like you said before, we don't recognize that, you know, this is like could be like a mental health crisis for us. So like find whatever outlet you need, because, you know, myself, you know, I got me a therapist, so I have another outlet for that. I would say to like the white people, talk amongst yourselves, find, you know, those resources that are not your Black friends, that can like help you help us in a sense and help you fix the problem that your ancestors has created. I would, you know, tell my Latinx community, continue to like speak up for, you know, the benefit of all Black people, because like if we benefit, y'all benefit as well. And, you know, the Asian community, I don't know what to tell y'all. Like,
you know what? That can be another topic in itself, though, because yeah, I'm not even going to start with that right now. But Obviously, there was an Asian officer involved in the death of George Floyd. Black people living in China right now have been treated like dirt. So that, yeah, I just encourage everyone to kind of show up right now. We need you to show up and stop chilling. Cameron, any parting words?
No.
Okay. Well, before we get off the podcast, I just want to say, obviously I'm the only Black woman on this panel, and I'm joined by 3 Black men. And I just wanted to say that I love y'all. I respect you. Your existence matters to me. Your place in this world matters to me. And before I get too emotional. Yeah.
And also, as a Black woman, and all Black women in general, always holding the Black man down. Not holding them down, but pushing them up. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. But always having the Black man's back. So, even though the Black woman don't, get her fair treatment in society. So I think that's a whole nother topic we can talk about as well. How like Black women are treated in America and in society. So, thank you to all of the Black women out there, because Black women ride or die.
They fight for us. More than
well, that's another thing actually I want people to do is to sign the petition so Breonna Taylor, her killers have not been arrested. And like you mentioned, Roshad, she was murdered on March the 13th. So if you haven't already, share, go sign the petition. We will include a link for you to click. Anyone else? Okay, thank you for tuning into next. Thank you for tuning into Next Topic Podcast. As always, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. You can follow me at Cool Keys on Instagram, COOLKEYES.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at shots_space. That's SHADS_SPACE.
You can follow me at Clicks by Cam on everything. It's KLICKSBYKAM.
And you can follow me on Insta and on Twitter at AbbyRuss, ABIIRUSS.
Also, check out Cameron's photos from the protests on Friday in Oakland. Some really powerful images. Keep this conversation going, please. Like, don't let it die out. And we'll see you next time. Hopefully, we'll have a little lighter topic. I don't know what the next topic gonna be, but obviously, like I said, this discussion needs to continue. But we will see you next time. Clink that link.
Man.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo. Be safe out there, people.